Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Paleontologizing. Yeah, Canada geese. How you doing, everybody? Welcome once again to Paleontologizing. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist, trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach here on Twitch.tv. And right now, I am in Indianapolis, Indiana. You can see the skyline over there. And we are at the Indiana State Museum with these lovely mastodons here. Take a look at that. Big bronze sculptures. Beautiful. But welcome. Hello to you, Science Streams. It's great to see you. Welcome back. Kodali, how you doing? Pocket Theremin, good to see you. How is everybody? Thank you for the host, by the way. Belent, really appreciate that. I hope you and Lita have been doing really well. It's great to see you. It was a long drive getting here today, but here I am, and looking forward to an excellent stream. And check these guys out, these wonderful North American proboscideans. Mammut americanum is the genus and species name for the American mastodon, and we're going to see some of their fossils here inside the museum in just a few minutes. But I'm kind of waiting for people to trickle in. Yeah. So, doing better now that you're here? Oh, Bulent, you flatter me. My goodness, it's great to see you. Check Morticia, how are you doing? Welcome. Golganek, what's shaking? Great to see you. And stream closed captioner, I don't have closed captioning on these streams, unfortunately. The mobile setup, I don't have that capacity. I may or may not put on my mask when I go inside, depending on how nervous I get around all these other people and everything. If there's just like a whole bunch of people crammed into there, then I'll probably put the mask on, but I don't know, it seemed kind of empty when I went in earlier to get my wristband and everything, pay admission. So yeah, Blue Front, how are you doing? It's great to see you. Welcome. Yeah. So good to see everybody. I hope you're having a great day so far. Yeah. Let's check out these mastodon sculptures. You notice they've got much smaller ears than modern elephants, especially African elephants have much larger ears than these guys. Yeah. Ears are often used, they're used partly for heat dissipation, and these guys wouldn't need that quite as much. They lived in a kind of a cooler climate during the Pleistocene. And then the body is kind of smaller, more squat, more compact. Doesn't have the big tall shoulder that, say, a woolly mammoth would have. You'll see this later on in the stream when we actually look at these guys, look at their skeletons. But these are some really beautiful sculpts. I like this a lot. Makes me wonder how they did it. Were these sculpted full size, or were they sculpted smaller and somehow embiggened before they were cast in bronze, or what? I don't know. But, very cool. Look at that big open mouth right there. And you can see those big mastodon teeth. Take a look. Very, very cool. Yeah. How awesome is that? This is like almost as big as mammals get on land. They get a little bit bigger than this. Modern elephants are bigger than this too. But yeah, I don't know. This is approaching kind of maximum mammalian land terrestrial size. But yeah. Pocket Theremin says just mask. I think I very well might. We'll have to see. I know there are some people who are hard of hearing and they prefer to be able to read my lips when I'm streaming, but for the sake of my own safety, not getting COVID, I think I might put on a mask when we're inside. We'll see. Yeah. Very, very cool. And hey, Spaceman Dan, how you doing? Welcome. Reaper Extra, good to see you. Yeah. And Golganek wants me to pet the mastodon. It's it's a beautiful sculpt, it really is. What a cool critter. And here's a plaque for it right here. And like I said, American mastodon, Mammut americanum. The mastodon, and that's kind of a more, I don't know, a slightly more generic and also more proper name, I guess. Mastodon is referring to, like, the family. Yeah, but mastodon was common in Indiana and the surrounding region near the end of the Ice Age, some 12,000 years ago. These bronze sculptures depict two young bulls alert to an unknown threat that has been separated from the herd. See more of the largest collection of Ice Age bones in Indiana. Visit the galleries of the Indiana State Museum, which we are about to do in just a few short minutes. The museum is committed to excavating and interpreting Indiana's past through exhibits and interpretive programs. We'll see what kind of a job they do with that. From what I've seen of the museum so far, just walking into the lobby and paying admission, it's a wonderful facility. And just gargantuan. It's a huge building, and which you'll see very shortly. But yeah. And thank you, Feist, for the Prime sub. Really appreciate that. Thank you for your support. Thanks for keeping me going here. Yeah, really neat. I like these kind of rough knee pads that they've got right there. That's very cool. Like mastodon butt. Cool stuff. Moonley missed them by 12,000 years. No, Golganak, well, you, I guess, but human beings certainly saw them. And those actually might be gone because they were hunted to extinction. That's, there's two prevailing hypotheses for the extinction of the Pleistocene megafauna. One of them is kind of a more gradual extinction due to climate change, and the other is a more abrupt extinction due to human overhunting. I happen to be convinced of the latter. I don't know. I don't work on Pleistocene stuff, so my opinion isn't worth all that much, but for whatever it's worth, I find human overhunting to be the more compelling hypothesis. But someday we'll figure it out for certain, you know? You meant your generation. There you go, Golganek. Yeah. And yeah, one pocket Dumpus says the whole bottom floor is nothing but fossils. I certainly hope so. I'm at the Indiana State Museum. So yeah. Yeah. Trying to figure out what QT State Museum would be, but no, that was a typo. I recognize that now. Yeah. And Kitty Pins, thank you so much for the 4 months of support. I really appreciate that. Great to have you here. And Smorphosaurus, how are you doing? It's great to see you. Yeah. So let's take a look at the museum facade right here.
The creature
it's pretty impressive.
Is our paleontologist.
In fact, that big glass structure like that kind of reminds me of Dinosaur National Monument, which we will, with any luck, also be seeing later this summer. Excited about that. But yeah, this is a really lovely facility. I'm very impressed so far. Clearly, a lot of money went into this. Oh, if only we had a natural history museum like this in Northern California, you know? That would be wonderful. So yeah, well, we got a raid here. Well, hello, raiders. Rather, how are you doing? Welcome to Paleontologizing, and thank you very much for the raid. Really appreciate it. For anybody who's brand new here, welcome to Paleontologizing. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist, and I'm here on Twitch trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach. So normally, I'm back home in the Bay Area, visiting or going over fossil news, showing people new publications and that kind of thing, answering people's questions, all from my office, you know? But right now, I'm out on a big road trip going all across the American West, visiting different museums and field sites and visiting with other paleontologists. And right now, I find myself in Indianapolis, Indiana. And we are at the Indiana State Museum right here. And I'm very excited to go show you around. So yeah. So thank you, Urather. And if anybody has not yet checked out that channel, please do so. Thank you, Urather, for bringing some people here. Really appreciate it. Hope you stick around. We're going to have a great stream. And I hope your stream was just as great. I'm sure it was. Let's see. And Wanpaku Dampu. Yeah, I'm not going to go to the Children's Museum, but I thought about it. They've got the holotype of Dracorex there, which we now recognize as a juvenile Pachycephalosaurus.
Really special.
But yeah. Maybe next time I come through the state of Indiana, I'll have a chance to visit, but not today, you know? Yeah. And Heg Pets, thank you so much for the gift sub. Really appreciate that. Atomic Eve, you enjoy that gift sub. Thank you for your support, Heg Pets. Yeah, and Delafo Masnoris, thank you so much for your ongoing support too. Really appreciate it. I need to ask, how is my volume right now? Is it good? I have a little volume rocker, so I can adjust the microphone volume. So let me know if I'm too loud or if I'm too quiet, and we can correct that, hopefully. Yeah. And Ayakane, thank you so much for those bits. Really appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. That's wonderful. How you doing, Ayakane? It's great to see you, by the way. Hope things have been good. Hope you and the dogs are doing well. And sounds great. All right, excellent. I had it right in the middle of right in the middle there, so I guess that's a happy medium. Excellent.
No expense.
Well, we're gonna go in just a minute here.
That was that vehicle driving by.
Lenina gifted a tier 1 sub to Dr.
In case you were wondering. Yeah. Let's go see the mastodons again real quick, and then we'll actually go into the museum. Oh, man. The sign says do not climb on the mastodon, and it's not stopping this family over here. Goodness. And thank you, Lenina, for the gift sub. I really appreciate that. Do we have a hype train going here? I can't tell, just based on this. But yeah. It does look like we might have a hype train. Thank you, everybody, for the support. And yeah, the canal is very nice, isn't it, Spaceman Dan? Yeah. Cool stuff. We've got some Canada geese in there hanging out.
Nice flotilla of modern dinosaurs. Let's see what they're up to. Very cool. Check them out.
Yeah. Anybody who would ever make the point that, like, oh, feathered dinosaurs aren't scary. Like, have you ever met an angry Canada goose? Man, if those things were just like twice as big, they would probably regularly kill and eat people, you know? Canada geese are, they've got some major moxie. They really do. Yeah. Yeah, anyway. Jedi Mega Man, how are you doing, Nico Barms? Great to see you too. Welcome to Paleontologizing. Here, let's go see the mastodon real quick, and then we'll go inside.
With sincere appreciation and gratitude, thank you very much to the 100 bits.
I joined the train Kappa HD.
I've seen how even on the building facade, they've got... This is pretty cool. Interesting stuff here. They didn't really waste any opportunity to celebrate the heritage of Indiana. Pretty cool stuff. So these are all the different counties here in Indiana. Cool. Anyway.
Really spectacular, spared no expense.
And we're on level 2. Excellent. Thank you, Golden. Well, here is our mastodon again for anybody who is just waltzing in right now. Yeah, Mammut americanum. Wonderful American proboscidean.
With sincere appreciation and gratitude, thank you very much to the 100 bits.
And how cool are they? Really, really awesome. And these are just outside on the museum grounds out here. Pretty neat. Well, cool stuff. Let's go ahead and... I'm sticking my head in a mastodon's mouth. Probably not the safest place. That would crush my head like a watermelon. Let's go in and actually see some real mastodon fossils, shall we? Alright. Let's go. Alright, here we go. Take a look at this lobby. Really impressive. Yeah, in case you're wondering what state we're in right now, that should be a clue right there.
Very, very cool.
Alright, so this is an enormous museum. We're not going to see everything today, but we're going to be focusing on natural history over there. And I think, I don't know, I got to set a good example and also protect myself. I'm going to be putting on a mask, everybody, so I hope that's okay with you. Yeah, apologies to anybody who is hard of hearing. You probably won't be able to read my lips while I'm wearing this mask, but I don't know, the BA.5 COVID variant is on the rise right now. And I've heard it's really, really bad. Symptoms are similar to, like, viral meningitis. I don't want to get that, nor do I want to spread it to anybody else, so put the mask on right now. We'll be close to some other people, so safety first, you know? All right. Here we are, natural history. Let's take a look. Hey there. Yeah. Alright, and there is that critter itself. This is a little bit larger than the ones that we saw outside, which are more or less life-size. Those would be like young males. Here is probably a larger bull male. Larger bull. Yeah. Very cool. So one of the largest mammals to ever walk across North America. Very, very cool. And take a look at those teeth. Very distinct from mammoth teeth. Mastodons and mammoths are both proboscideans, so they're both related to elephants. But the most obvious difference between them is from their skeletons is in the teeth. Look at those big old cusps right there in their teeth. They almost look like giant human molars. Very different from either elephant or mammoth teeth. Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. Looks like it's smiling. It does, doesn't it, Sparky Pugwash? Yeah. Yeah. Cool stuff. And apparently they've nicknamed the specimen Fred. So Fred was once a 13,000-pound mass of flesh and energy. Very cool. Found in Allen County, Indiana. Very cool. Dan Boucher, who found the mastodon, named it after his grandfather, Fred. Very cool. He was 33 years old, so they must have actually done histo on him. I wonder if they did that from looking at the teeth or looking at, like, bone histology. He was 33 years old, died in his prime. Usually lived alone or with bachelor mastodons, kind of like modern elephants will do the same thing. We'll have bachelor herds that'll stick together. Very cool. His skull was fractured just before he died. Wow. The strongest bull won the right to mate with females in the herd, and losers scattered or died from injuries. And that seems to have been what happened to poor Fred here. Let's see if we can find that fracture in his skull. Not seeing any super obvious fractures yet, but it might be on the top side where we can't see. Very cool. Neat stuff. And this is neat. Touch a real bone from an Indiana mastodon. So this is his left ulna right there. Very cool. Check that out. Big ol' olecranon process here on the ulna. This is the muscle attachment point for, like, retracting the arm. And this is where it articulates what the humerus looks like. So this is basically his elbow right here. And take a look. You can tell that this is real bone by looking at the texture there. Yeah.
All that vascularity in there.
Cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Yeah.
Very cool. Check that out. And also pay attention to the, look at the way that they mounted the skeleton.
So we've talked many times on this channel before about how, like the way to tell a mounted skeleton, the actual bones from a cast, is by looking at the way that it's mounted. Looking at the way that it's, they get it to stand up. And here,
you've got this metal armature that goes around it to hold those bones together. If it were a cast, and parts of this are cast or sculpted, but if the whole thing was, then you wouldn't see that metal armature. It'd just be going straight through the bones. But here, it's gently cradling the bones because a lot of those are the real elements. Pretty neat. And I like that they put the actual ulna here that you can feel and touch.
get that kind of hands-on connection to natural history. And then they must have cast it and then put a cast there to help complete the forms. Very, very cool. Are all the bones from the same animal, TMK? In this case, yes. If they aren't, that's what we call a composite skeleton. When you've got like bones from multiple, like individuals of the same species, we would call that a composite skeleton. This does not appear to be like that. All of these bones are from the same critter, except for the ones that are reconstructed. So you'll see this right here, that femur there. His right femur is reconstructed. So you can see the texture. It almost looks like it's been 3D printed. Or maybe rapid prototyped or something like that. But do you see how it's almost kind of, almost looks pixelated there? Yeah. That shows you that it's not a cast. It's produced rapidly somehow. Either through 3D printing or maybe like, maybe they had like a, what do you call it, machine that like cut it out of foam or something like that. But yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. Oh, and Valent wants to know, how does one cast a bone without damaging it prior to scans? Well, usually you make the mold out of silicone, like out of rubber, basically. So you've got like a flexible rubber mold, and then you pour material into it, either plastic resin or plaster. It's kind of the old classic way of doing it. Yeah, so if you're doing things right, when you're molding a bone to try and cast it, you're not going to hurt it at all. If you're doing things right, Yeah. Very cool. And look at those big old olecranon processes on the ulna there. Just like we saw over on the genuine one. We've got that right there. Very, very cool. Yeah. Alright. Oh, sorry about that, everybody. Well, yeah. Anyway. Ooh. Alright. Sorry about that. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, very, very cool. You can also take a look at the scapula right there, which is, that's clearly a replica as well. Looks like it's been cast from an actual bone. Maybe they have the original one there, and then that one might be original, or it might be from another specimen. But, yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. Anyway, yeah. All right, let's take a look at. Oh, and sorry, static is on. Shoot. I'm sorry, everybody. Shoot. That's better now? Well, let's go ahead and continue on and take a look at some of these Indiana fossils. Apparently, it turns out they're actually going to be closing pretty soon. And so I got to kind of go through this relatively quickly. This is going to be a relatively fast stream, I think. But this is going to be really, really neat. We're going to look at some actual fossils from here within the state of Indiana and probably nearby as well. So, yeah. Here's some casts of some different invertebrates. So like we saw at a couple of the other museums, like the one in Madison and the one in Rockford too, there was once a warm, shallow sea that covered most of Indiana. Well, covered pretty much the entire state, as well as most of the American Midwest. This is a long time ago, long before the first dinosaurs. From about 500 to about 300 million years ago, this area was actually underwater. And you had all kinds of cool critters like these. You've got these mollusks there. You've got echinoderms. Echinoderms are related to like sea stars and sea anemones and sea urchins and that kind of thing. You've got mollusks like ammonites and nautiloids. And you've got arthropods like those trilobites up there. And this is very cool because it actually shows you the different formations too. The Mississauga Formation, the Wabash Formation. Cool stuff. And take a look at that. We've got a placoderm fish right here. So I mentioned armored fishes in the title for this episode. Take a look at that. Very cool. Carcinosoma from the Kokomo limestone. I think I passed by Kokomo in order to get here today. So this is an ancient fish. You can see the body right there. There's fins coming down on either side. And then there's the tail behind it. So this is an armored fish. This might even be an agnathan fish. One of these groups that evolved, before fishes actually evolved jaws. And so that fish would have had to watch out for predators like these up here. So this is a eurypterid behind me, also called a sea scorpion. And yes, they really did get that big. Some of them even got a little bit bigger than that. Very, very cool. These are the largest arthropods that ever lived, are eurypterids like this. Very, very cool. So Sparky Pugwash is this huge lobster. They are related to lobsters. So they're related to crustaceans and to things like horseshoe crabs and also things like spiders. So they're not true crustaceans like lobsters are, but it's basically the same kind of idea from long before the first lobsters. Pretty neat. Take a look at that. Yeah. Very, very cool. And then these guys here are more eurypterids. And this almost looks like a Karen Carr illustration. I wonder if it is. Very, very cool. And here's some of those armored fishes. These are agnathan fishes, so you can tell they don't have movable jaws. They basically just have a hole at the front of their head that they use for ingesting food. And these guys would have been prey for eurypterids that would have seized them with their claws like that. Yeah, pretty neat. Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. All right. And over here, more Silurian fossils from Indiana. Very cool. Many different animals from the Silurian period have been found in Indiana. Here, like the chain coral Halicites catanularia, are common. Others, like the cystoid Holocites scutulatus, are not. So these guys are fairly uncommon. These guys are very, very common.
Okay, I'm back.
Hang on a second. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm gonna have to talk to somebody at the museum. I guess they've got some sort of policy or something. So hang tight and hopefully this works out. But yeah. Anyway.
You got me, Jenny?
Very, very cool. Yeah. Yeah. And let's see. Yeah. Let's take a look at some of these right here. So this is something that we see a lot of here in the Midwest. Lots and lots of fossil corals. So if anybody here has ever been to Michigan and seen things like Petoskey stones, right up there, that looks like a lot like hexagonaria coral right there. Number 10, where's our key here? They've got these like hexagonal shapes to them, like that. Now, let's see if we can take a look. I wonder if there's like a paper key or something like that, because I haven't actually seen it. But anyway, these are fairly common fossils and they're really important scientifically. So these can be used as index fossils for determining what kind of rocks you're in, what age of rocks you're in. If you just find something like this, horn corals like number 3 and 34 there, it can pretty precisely date the age of rocks that you're looking at, you know? But yeah. But anyway, yeah. And very funny chickens pickens now. I'm not going to say that.
In the time of the
Very cool.
dinosaur, this was a subtropical delta,
Take a look at
home of
these.
the big plant eaters, and of the monsters who chased them.
Various brachiopods. That looks like a horsetail right there. Very, very neat. Yeah, we talked a little bit about horsetails yesterday. These kind of marshy plants that are they're common today in kind of marshy areas. But they're yeah, they actually go back a really, really long way. This might not be a true horsetail. It might not be from the same group as Equisetum, but you know, it's a similar kind of organism. It's got these segments like that, very fast growing. It's a beautiful specimen right there. Very, very cool. Yeah. Really neat. Yeah. And thank you for your support, Tiger Lizzie. Really appreciate that. Yeah. I don't know. I could stand here and look at these corals all day. They're very, very cool. This is a really neat kind of sample platter of the different kinds of Silurian corals that you get in this part of the country. Awesome stuff. Yeah. Now let's take a look at this guy up here. I promised you armored fishes. And here is one, Dunkleosteus. I really like the way that they've done this. So first, let me see if I can find an illustration of this critter. There we go, like this. These are basically the top predators of their day. So these are some of the earliest jawed fishes. And at the time that they evolved, these are probably the largest predatory animals ever at the time that they first evolved. Take a look at that. Nice illustration there. And there it is, actual size. So these are casts of the actual bony plates of a Dunkleosteus skeleton. And I think we might actually have, like, I don't know if the rest of the skeleton is frequently preserved at all. It might even be like cartilaginous, kind of like with modern sharks. So it's those armor plates around the head that really give us an idea of what this animal was like. I think the rest of its body might be kind of spotty, you know? Might not know very much about it. So yeah. Yeah. Very, very cool. I mean, just take a look at that. Just the sheer volume that would have been represented there. Pretty awesome. And so again, fishes like this is Dunkleosteus, or at least it's a Dunkleosteid fish, one of these big old placoderm fishes. They didn't really have teeth per se, they just have these really sharp edges to their beak, like that.
Pretty neat. Pretty neat. And then you can see the eye right there too. It's got those sclerotic ossicles, bones within the eye.
Which most creatures have. We've talked about sclerotic ossicles before. It kind of gives shape and form to an otherwise kind of squishy, organ like that. As mammals, we don't have that, but most other vertebrate animals do. Reptiles have it, birds have it, fishes have it. I think sometimes even amphibians, and
These ancestral jawfishes have it too. So yeah.
pretty cool, right? Yeah. And Megasphaces, do they still do suction feeding like most fish? These guys did not. That's a great question, Megarspace. So the fishes that do suction feeding today are mostly teleost fish. It's kind of a modern fish group. They first appear, I think, in the late Jurassic or maybe in the Cretaceous period. I want to say they appear in like the early Cretaceous. And they've got a lot of kinesis in their jaws. So if you ever watch slow motion footage of like a bass or something like that, like latching onto a fish hook, their jaws kind of move independent of their head. And these guys obviously could not do that. At least not to the same extent that teleost fish can. So yeah, that suction feeding I think is kind of by virtue of them being able to flex their head so much. These guys wouldn't do that. They'd have to like propel themselves at prey, open their mouth and grab it. I don't know if they could do the suction feeding thing like modern fishes can. Does that make sense? Yeah. About fin and tail plates. Oh, Golganek, those are not actually there. So those are just to show you that those are the fins. But we don't actually have, like, that's not actual bone right there. That's just a metal plate.
So that just would have been soft tissue in life. They didn't have rigid plates like that.
All the rigid plates are in their head. I think these guys also had bones too, like most placoderm fish. But those bones, they're not really the same composition as like modern fish bones. They're harder to fossilize. It's those skull plates that are really the
What a charming channel.
important part.
It was called the
yeah. Does that make sense?
It made
I hope it does.
reptile history.
And Rattlegore, holy cow, thank you for those gifts. I really appreciate that. Holy cow, Rattlegore, thank you. That's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, and there you go, Golganek. Yeah. Holy cow, Rattlegore, thank you so much for the support. Really appreciate that. Really, really do. Very neat. All right, speaking of fishes, let's take a look at some of these cannibalistic sharks. That's pretty neat. And what an exquisite specimen right there. You can actually see the texture of the scales. You can see those rays inside of the fins. It's like cartilage rays. And here's a lovely one right there too. You can see the skull up front. Like a lot of fish fossils, the skull and all the little bones like that kind of squished together. Yeah, they don't always make the prettiest fossils. I've been showing you guys all kinds of fossils from the Green River Formation, all these beautifully preserved fishes. Most fossil fish do not look like that. Their skulls are kind of a mess, usually. And this is a beautiful one, but it's beautiful in a different way from those Green River fishes. So you can see the skull up there, and you can see the dorsal fin right there. And then down to the tail, you've got the caudal fin. That is absolutely gorgeous. And there's the notochord right there. You can actually see the spinal column. we're all good. Yeah. They just kind of wanted to know, like, why is a guy walking around with all this gear and everything? So I just talked to him for a minute. It was really nice. So yeah. Anywho. And there we go. Yeah, so I told him we're just going to be sticking around here in the fossil area, so that's what we're doing. Which gives us some extra time to do this. We can really focus in on some of this stuff. This is going to be really cool. Is everybody ready to see some fossil barf? Very, very cool. Precious barf. What a shark can't stomach is something we can learn from. Look closely at this rock. You're viewing the leftover of a shark's lunch. Ancient sharks, like their modern cousins, throw up what they can't digest. This fossilized shark vomit preserves a record of their long-ago meals. What do you suppose an ancient shark ate? Maybe you can see what appear to be fish scales. So take a look at that. This is a lovely example of another ichno-fossil. So, yeah. What we have here is like an actual record of an animal's daily life and behavior. So rather than body fossils, things like, skeletons, teeth, actual parts of the animal, ichnofossils like this give us clues as to animals' behavior, what they're doing, what they're eating, what their daily lives are like. So pretty neat. Got fossilized shark barf. Yeah. Very cool. Awesome stuff. Yeah. And take a look at that. There's a body fossil right there. We've got some shark teeth in what looks like a lower jaw. I'm not sure what that would be. Yeah, take a look at that, number 1 there. Yeah. So this is during the Pennsylvanian period, so we've moved forward in time, past fishes like our Dunkleosteus here, and we are now in what we call the Coal Age. There's another bit of shark upchuck there. Cool stuff, very cool stuff. Really neat. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and is Lordy here too? How you doing, Lordy? Welcome. It's great to see you here. Shoot, for anybody who's here, let me go over here for just a second. Let me take this off on the way. But if anybody's new here, welcome to Paleontologizing. My name is Danny Anduza. I'm a dinosaur paleontologist here on Twitch, trying to do some good old-fashioned science outreach. Normally, I'm streaming from my office in the San Francisco Bay Area, but right now, I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, at the beautiful Indiana State Museum. I'm deeply impressed with this facility.
I do call myself an expert
in
in
dinosaur
dinosaur
celebration of
Hi,
Indiana's
friends.
fossil heritage.
Paleocera
Really
body,
cool to see.
Paleocera style.
I almost get the sense that this is like a neglected corner of the museum because I haven't seen too many people back here. They don't know what they're missing. This is wonderful. Very, very cool to see these remarkable fossils from this part of the world. Cool stuff. I'm going to put my mask back on now. We're done with our little intro. Oops. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, very cool. Oh, and Belen, holy cow, you flatter me. I don't even know what to say. And we do have some dragonflies over there, Zen. We will take a look at those in a little bit. And Chow Bao, thank you for the support. Really appreciate that. Here. This is pretty cool. Really well-written panels and some gorgeous, gorgeous fossils. So this is about as near perfect as I've ever seen an example of a crinoid in a museum like this. You normally don't find them like this. You normally find them like that. Basically all kinds of little segments and everything, just kind of broken up and scattered. So these are creatures. This is an animal, not a plant. You see right there is an animal. And these are related to modern echinoderms. Things like sea urchins, sea stars, starfish, stuff like that. And just like those critters, they've got that same radial symmetry. So a lot of other animals are bilaterally symmetrical, where the left side is identical to the right side. With echinoderms like this, they've got radial symmetry. So they've got a central point, and then everything is symmetrical coming off of that point, kind of like a star. You see that right there too. So here is the stalk,
that goes down. I don't remember the official term for the stalk. It's been a long time since I've taken invert paleontology. Back in college. It's been years and years. But that stalk reaches down to the sea floor and anchors it there, like you see there, the crinoids. And then you've got the body of the organism and all of those arms that come off of it like that. And so they would have little filaments that kind of wave around in the water column. They'd pick up little bits of organic matter, and they'd pass them down to the central part, the mouth there, and they'd eat them. So they're basically filter feeders. And so these critters, crinoids, used to be really, really common in ancient oceans. They're much more rare today, but they are still around. They never went completely extinct. So you can still find examples of living crinoids in certain parts of the world today. But they don't have the same kind of dominance that they used to have. They used to be absolutely everywhere. And so if you're ever, walking around looking at different rocks and you see anything that looked like that, especially with a little star in the center, like a little disc with a star cut out, that is a crinoid segment. And there are certain places in the world, like up in the Beartooth Mountains of Montana, where I used to live. These are just everywhere, like a pavement, all over the place. They're very, very cool. Yeah. And crinoids are these. Yeah. So they're echinoderms. They're a kind of animal related to sea stars and sea urchins, critters like that. And that's how you spell it, crinoid. Yeah, and here are some bits of crinoid right there. So this is a long stem of a crinoid. And here are some little bits of one that fell apart. There's some more right there. Very cool. Yeah. There's another one right there. They almost look like little spinal cords. And that's kind of almost what they are, except they're not related to backboned animals. Yeah. Cool stuff. Very cool stuff. And so that particular crinoid, like this right here, we can look at the key on here. And that is, it just says crinoid stem. There you go. And they're calling it a stem, just like I did. That's good to know. Yeah. I guess I had the term correct. Yeah. Very cool. Neat stuff. So those Cheerios in your rocks are crinoids. There you go, Golganek, sure. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. And hang on, Mr. Sniff, is that Matt there? Trying to figure out who you might be. Is that you, Matt? From back in school? Cool stuff. Very neat. Don't go into the water. Fearsome predators of the Mississippian period, sharks, which are largely cartilaginous, have left only fragmentary evidence in Indiana. Though shark teeth and skin spines are common in Mississippian rocks, shark bones are rarely preserved. These shark remains are from the St. Louis limestone in Putnam County. Very cool. So some sharks, they've got these spines, usually along their sagittal plane, so like on their back, along the midline of the animal. There are these famous sharks from the Jurassic called hybodont sharks. And they've got a little spine, I think just behind their dorsal fin. Sharks have been around for a very, very long time. There's kind of like a neat science factoid that you'll hear sometimes. Sharks are older than dinosaurs, which is very much true. Sharks are actually older than trees, which I suppose is true. Yeah, there have been sharks on planet Earth for longer than there have been trees on land. Pretty amazing to think about, right? Yeah, sharks have a long and storied history on our planet. And here are some examples of shark spines from right here in Indiana. Very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. Awesome stuff. And, yeah. And there you go, Golganek, in Kentucky. Oh, you've got lots of crinoids in Kentucky. And that is Matt. All right, Mr. Sniff. Good to know. Good to see you, Matt. I hope you've been doing well. Yeah. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And there's one of those ancient sharks right there. These really do look like Karen Carr paintings. She's a paleo artist. She's done a lot of work in
Texas, I think at the Houston Museum of Natural History. She's got a lot of work there. Will somebody look that up real quick? If Karen Carr, Karen, Karen, Carr, Carr, if she has done work for the Indiana State Museum, because that really looks like her style. I think it very well might be. So there's a shark cruising on by, and there you've got some living crinoids. Or some crinoids that existed during the time. Very cool. So that's what this critter is, what left stems like this, and then organisms like that. Yeah, that's a crinoid. These things used to be everywhere in ancient oceans, and they still have some living representatives around today, but they're not nearly as common. Very cool. And they're called columnals. Okay, thank you again. That's what they're called. The little individual bits of the stem are called columnals. I was calling them segments, but I guess columnal. That sounds familiar. I think that is the official term. Thank you, Hugo. Yeah. And Zintaus says, not only are sharks older than trees, they also outdate grass? Totally. No, shoot. Snakes are older than grass. Yeah, grass is a fairly recent innovation in terms of flowering plants. Yeah. Grass doesn't really show up in the fossil record until after the extinction of the dinosaurs. Grass is pretty recent. Yeah. Oh, and there you go. Has helps. Was I right about that? Oh, excellent. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. Very cool. Buttons. Cool stuff. Speaking of crinoids, we've got some beautiful examples over here. Look at those. So not only are these beautifully preserved, but this is an incredible prep job too. Somebody spent dozens and dozens, I'm sure hundreds, maybe thousands of hours prepping these out. And that looks like pretty difficult matrix right there. What a work of art. It just showcases how paleontology is one of those wonderful sciences where art and scholarship kind of come together. And the people who clean fossils, we call them preparators. They're basically, I don't know, it's like a laboratory technician kind of a job. Fossil preparation, where you chip away bits of rock in order to reveal the fossil. And sometimes you have to make like really interesting decisions in which parts to save and which parts to get rid of, or which parts to chip away. You can see that right here. They've just been left with these beautiful pedestals of matrix right there. Matrix being the surrounding rock. Just absolutely exquisite. Just incredible, yeah. Very, very cool. Yeah. Neat stuff. Just absolutely beautiful. And also you can see how long those stems can get on the crinoids. In each of those individual columnals, after the creature dies, if it doesn't get buried really quickly, it can decompose and they all just scatter all over the place, and you can have hundreds of them just from one animal. So, yeah. And rocks of the right age, you might just have thousands upon thousands, maybe millions of these little columnals from crinoids. Super cool. Super cool. And we've got, holy cow, so many different species represented here. That is nuts. So, camerate crinoids. Shoot, we've got 21 different species of crinoid represented just in this one block. That is some incredible diversity there. I mean, that's nuts. Take a look. There's camerate crinoids. Very, very cool. Wow. Just extraordinary. That's really amazing. Yeah. Very cool. And then look at all these different, what are these? Brachiopods. So these are basically ancient clam-like creatures. I think brachiopods today are extinct. I think they've been like completely replaced by bivalves. But back during the Paleozoic era, they were everywhere. We've got some beautiful examples here. Really, really neat. So these are from the Edwardsville Formation and the Spickard Knob Formation. Very cool. And I love that there is a... This is beautiful. Somebody really poured their heart and soul into this. We've got, if you're a paleontologist designing this exhibit, or maybe a team of paleontologists, they really wanted to put good information out there. So these are all local rock formations. Right here in Indiana, all from the Mississippian period. So this is just one little segment of all of Earth history. Mississippian period is what, like between 20 and 40 million years, I think. So it's just one little chunk of the big geologic time scale. And we've got all of these beautiful rock formations, all from the same geologic period right there. There are people, like myself, who devote their entire lives to figuring out what's going on in these rocks, cataloging the fossils found within them, and using them to kind of tell a story about the history of life on Earth. And I love that this is here. I mean, you think about your average member of the public walking through here, and they'll just walk past this sign, but if anybody stops, takes a look, this is just a wonderful visual representation of how much work has gone into understanding the rock record. I mean, I love this. This is really cool. This is not like entry-level stuff. This is like... There are probably multiple doctoral theses that are represented in this. So like multiple people's... Yeah. It's probably multiple people's life's work represented in this, and cataloging these fossils, and just using that to fill in another puzzle piece, trying to figure out the history of life on our amazing planet. This is really, really cool. Yeah. And since would you say
Did
diversity
you
in the
ever,
ocean
though,
was on its
have a
highest spectrum?
moment where it was kind of heartbreaking?
So I mean, it's tough
No,
because
what
when
blue
you're
is cheap.
looking at stuff like this is just like a smattering of some of the different organisms that lived in the ocean at the time. A lot of the stuff that is soft-bodied would not preserve. If things don't have hard parts, they could be very difficult to fossilize. So yeah, the things with hard parts, things with shells, things with teeth, the things with bones, they're kind of over-represented in the fossil record compared to soft things. Like the fossil record of slugs, for instance, is practically non-existent because they don't have hard parts that fossilize, We've probably got maybe traces like trackways from slugs and stuff, but like body fossils would be...
We didn't come here to fight with
near
monsters.
impossible
We
to
came
find,
here to find fossils.
because they don't have hard parts like that, So yeah. Very, very cool. Just absolutely extraordinary. Oh, hey there. Let me turn the volume. There. Thanks. And shoot, let me take this off too. Just, I don't know. It's weird if I'm wearing a mask and you're not.
Do you prefer that I have one? I don't have
It's fine.
I had
Yeah, I'm vaccinated and boosted.
COVID in June, so I'm
Okay.
free for
Cool.
a little bit.
Yeah, well, shoot. Can I introduce you real quick? Or would
Sure.
you like to introduce yourself?
Sure.
Yeah.
I am Peggy Fisher-Keller. I'm curator of geology here at the Indiana State Museum. I'm responsible for our rocks, our Paleozoic fossils, and minerals.
Very, very cool. And I was just saying how, let me make sure that my volume is back on. Okay, it is good. I turned it off when, yeah. Anyway, we were just talking about how beautiful these displays are, and I like the word that you used, granular. We were looking at, can I go over here real quick?
Yeah.
Maybe we could talk about this. I was just saying how remarkable this is, that we've got this beautiful timeline right here of all these different geologic formations right here in Indiana. I mean, this is not something that you would typically see in a museum like this, and it's very, very impressed. Yeah, did you help put this together?
I did.
Yeah.
I was here for the development of this gallery,
Very
and
cool.
I think part of why it's like this is I was just out of graduate school, so I was very much, and I taught classes, taught undergraduates, and so I was very much like, people need to know these things.
That's really cool. Yeah.
But it also, I mean, for me, I'm very graphic, right? So having things laid out has always helped me
For sure.
locate things, place things for myself. So that's why I thought it was important that we do this.
That's really neat. I mean, I was just thinking that the average person walking through here, they're not going to go and read this whole thing, but just to know that that's there, I think gives them some sense that, like, there are people who devote their lives to the study of the strata here, and it's just really cool to see that represented.
Oh, well, thanks.
So yeah. You said you specialize in invertebrates. Is there a particular group that's...
I did, well, I don't do it now so much, but I did my master's on bryozoans.
Very cool. Neat. Yeah, it's been a long time. I'm trying to remember anything about bryozoans from college. It's been a long time since invertebrate paleontology class, but yeah, very cool. Can you maybe tell us why bryozoans are interesting, and maybe explain to the viewers what they are, I guess?
Yeah, so bryozoans aren't something that we think of in today's oceans, but they're very abundant in today's oceans. They live much like colonial corals live. They're colonial animals. They live in colonies. They're all genetically, they're clones of each other, and they all work they work for the good of the colony.
So they're the reef builders, right?
They
no?
are structure builders.
Structure builders, okay.
I don't know if they would be considered reef builders.
Okay, yeah. I'm trying to think back to like different groups, like rudists would form reefs and stuff like that. But bryozoans...
I think they certainly contribute.
Okay.
They certainly contribute. They build calcium carbonate skeletons. So they're certainly contributors to that. But then there are also some, that you wouldn't think of as reefs, like Archimedes, which is the corkscrew, right? And a lot of the bryozoans in the Mississippian that we're looking at. Can we place them out? Let's see. So
there we
here are
go.
a few little bryozoans. Right here you can see there are the two corkscrew ones kind of in the center, but they also had fronds attached around the screw.
Oh, almost like a crinoid or something? Are they like filter feeders?
Yeah. And so the frond was actually where the animals lived, not the central corkscrew for Archimedes. So in these Mississippian rocks, you just find like layers and layers and layers of these fronds.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Really neat. What else would you be excited to show us?
The sponge.
Yeah, the sponge.
The sponge
Holy cow.
is amazing.
I walked around the corner, I'm like, is that a sauropod scapula or something like that? It's enormous.
The sponge is fabulous. So we're looking at the Mississippian in Indiana is really special because of all the crinoids. Maybe you were talking about the crinoids earlier. Yeah. But along with the crinoids in these units are things like these sponges.
Very, very cool.
They're most of the time, I think most people who are collecting the crinoids just throw them away, right? Because you're hunting for
a big complete specimen, something charismatic looking.
Something charismatic.
Yeah.
And sponges, you can see these smaller ones are not
peripherans,
charismatic.
Yeah.
But that large one is amazing because
it
you
is.
can really picture
enormous.
You can picture a nature show today. Some scuba divers swimming with a giant sponge, and that's what it looks like.
Super
Just
cool.
Add color.
Wow. Uh-huh. Very, very neat. Is that about as big as they get in the Mississippian?
Oh, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
'cause
I don't know.
huge.
It's the biggest
I'm
I've
deeply
seen.
impressed,
but-
yeah. Very, very cool. So can you kind of orient us, like, the bottom would be anchored to the seafloor, presumably.
Yep.
Would there be anything else coming off the top, or is that basically, that's the body of it right there?
I think that's the structure of it.
Very
And
cool.
It's nearly three-dimensional. It's
Uh-huh.
compressed. You
Yeah.
know, but
Very cool. So for those of you watching at home, just picture this, but much more brightly colored. Yeah, almost like, I don't know. I remember seeing a giant clam recently, and that was really, really brightly colored
yes.
in a way that you wouldn't imagine if you're not well versed in invertebrates.
Yeah.
So picture something like that with the same, I don't know. Yeah. Very, very cool. Awesome. Let's see. I was wondering about these guys. Well, I know you don't really work on vertebrates, but can you walk
I
us
can
through
talk about them. Yeah.
these chondrichthyan
Yeah.
fishes over here?
Yes. So this, I mentioned that I started this. I was actually in grad school when I started this job.
Nice.
And
It's a good gig to land while you're in grad school, yeah.
Oh my gosh. It started out as part-time, and we were hired for the development of the new museum. This museum opened in 2001. Before that, we were in a small city hall, so we made the big move. And this was one of my first assignments, was to go talk to Dr. Reiner Zangrel, who has the pipe. He was a shark paleontologist at the Field Museum for years and years and years. And when he retired, he moved to Western Indiana. And he did this because he spent a large part of his life working on these quarries in Western Indiana, where these hundreds and hundreds of shark remains were found. And through his research, he figured out that these units represented about 4 years. Like 4 years.
That's it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so come around the corner with me.
Yeah. 4 years, that's incredibly brief for,
He found masses of these shark bits, fish fragments, fish scales, and he figured out that what these 4 years with these units represented were sequential wet and dry seasons.
Oh.
So during the wet seasons, you'd get flooding onto land, and sharks and fish and everything would kind of come on, and then they would dry up, and the sharks would go crazy. Right? They would just start eating everything in these little
Once the areas get
ponds.
flooded, there's all that organic matter in there that suddenly they can exploit.
Yeah, and sharks today vomit, you know, when they're having a feeding frenzy, and so he deduced that these masses were from the feeding frenzies, but there are also like really complete ones. So that large one is a cast that's at the Field Museum.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but this that's an original.
Look at that! Holy cow! So yeah, there's a caudal fin back there. Is that kind of like odd coloration in there? Is that like the gut reader?
So, yes.
Yeah?
What Dr. Zangrel told me is that when he split this piece, there was actually a cephalopod in an egg sac, and then it degraded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It tends to happen sometimes. But very, very cool. Do we have like a genus or species name for? Is that Clado? What's it called? Clado sea latch?
No.
No,
it
different
is
one?
Not.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot.
We should have this out here, but we don't have it out here. So I can get you that information. if
It's
you're
not a big deal. I was just curious. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we
Yeah.
do have a name for it though.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Let's see. I guess while I've got you here, I don't want to take up too much of your time. This is wonderful, by the way, and people in chat are very enthusiastic, and they're kind of going nuts. So, so thank you for taking
You're
the time with us.
welcome.
Is there anything else that you'd like to show us while you're over here? I was actually wondering about this. That looks a lot like the fossil corals that I've seen up in Michigan, like Petoskey stones. Is that
Yeah.
Hexagonaria or a similar?
Hexagonaria. Well,
Number
it's
10
now,
right there?
Yeah, it's now Prismatophyllum. Is that?
Oh, has it been reclassified?
Yeah, Prismatophyllum. Hexagonaria is now Prismatophyllum.
Oh,
That
gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yep, that is what it is.
That is what it is. Very cool. Well, I'm impressed with myself. I don't know anything about
Good job.
invertebrates, so. Very, very cool.
Yeah, so this is all these materials are from the Falls of the Ohio State Park in southern Indiana.
Oh.
They're right on the Ohio River, and it's just an area where, the Ohio River creates a falls. Right, so it's the Falls of the Ohio State Park.
So you get lots of erosion there, and it's
Lots of erosion. And there are hundreds of coral species in this area. And when the water's low, you can go out and look
really?
at all
Actually
of
prospect
these.
for them?
Yeah.
Very,
you
very
can't
cool.
Prospect.
Well, yeah, it's a state park, I'm
It's a
sure.
state
So
park.
you need state permits and everything.
But
yeah.
you can look. And so, some of these were collected either nearby or before it became a state park.
Very, very cool. Holy cow. Do you have a collections here at this museum?
We
as
do.
well?
Yeah.
Very
We sure
cool.
do.
Yeah, what kind of, I'm sure you've got a lot of...
So we have a lot of what you see. We also have a lot of Ice Age vertebrate material.
Pleistocene stuff, yeah.
Pleistocene.
Very cool.
Yeah. And then we have a mineral collection. We have a petrology collection. We have an archaeological collection. We have biology collections. And then all of our cultural history as well.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, everything that we see on display here, is this all all from Indiana? That is really impressive. Yeah.
Almost. I have to
Got a
say
handful of
that-
other stuff maybe
I
from...
have to say that big trilobite is from Ohio.
Oh, is it?
So, nearby.
We haven't even seen that yet, but let's go take a look, actually, if you don't mind.
Same geologic units, but from Ohio.
That is enormous. This is almost as big as trilobites get, from what I
It's
understand.
pretty close. It's pretty close. At one point, it was the third largest known Maximus, but I think another surpassed it.
Let me just get here next to it to give people a sense of scale. That is an enormous trilobite. Just huge. And what age would this be?
Ordovician.
Ordovician. That's really early for a big trilobite. Yeah, shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Cool stuff. And are these brachiopods or bivalves here?
Brachiopods.
Brachiopods. No, I was trying to recall. Brachiopods, they go extinct at the end of the Permian or something, right?
Brachiopods are still
they're still around?
exist. Yep.
Oh,
they still are
shoot.
present.
Okay.
Most are all. Don't quote me on that one. They're lamp shells. Modern lamp shells.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Very, very cool.
They're very much reduced, though.
They just kind of barely squeak through.
Yep.
Yeah, really neat. This is super cool. Oh, and I like the, you've got,
well, I
interbedding there.
Yeah, cribbed this all from the Indiana Geological Survey, so it's not not my work, but
it's very, very cool, though. How long did it take to work on this whole exhibit?
So I was hired in '99, and we opened in 2001. So.
Wow.
About all that. Yeah.
Very cool. This giant, what do you call that, an orthicone or a nautiloid, or what would you call that critter?
Both of those.
Okay,
yeah.
Do we have those here in Indiana as well?
We do, yes. So for the animals floating, I don't have anything that large here.
Yeah.
But I searched the literature for what's the largest,
Oh, and you had that built to reflect that. That is super cool. Largest one from here in Indiana, or
largest one wherever.
Period. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I did a stream from the Madison Geology Museum in Wisconsin. They had a big orthicone, not nearly this big, but it was still pretty impressive. They've got a lot of them up there, near Dane County, Ordovician.
Yeah. I think it's
very cool. Let's get a different angle on it. 12 feet. That is really impressive.
What I researched about 20 years ago.
Very, very cool.
I'm sure there's bigger and better now.
Well, that's super neat, and I love the way that it's placed too, just kind of beckoning people around the corner. That's really well done. Awesome. Shoot, can we take a look at the Eurypterid and the Dunkleosteus maybe before? Yeah. Holy cow.
And that's, again, we don't have anything this large here in Indiana. And we have very minimal, we have some beautiful Eurypterids, but we only
kind of fragments of anything close
fragments
to
of this kind. We
Gotcha.
have a tiny little fragment of this kind of Eurypterid.
Is this
so
Pterygotus or something similar?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Exactly.
I remember that name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool. And the taxonomic placement for these guys, or phylogenetic placement, they're kind of near like horseshoe crabs, right? Kind of, they're not insects, they're not crustaceans, they're like...
Yeah, they're, gosh.
Sorry, I don't mean to be putting you on the spot again.
To search my memory. I think they look a lot like horseshoe crabs, but they're, I don't know how closely.
Yeah. Shoot, they might even be like a big mystery with so many of these. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe they jump around a lot taxonomically.
I'm sure that they're located. I haven't looked that up lately.
Okay, yeah. Very, very cool. And then is this, what kind of placoderm is this? That is Dunkleosteus. Okay.
Yeah, so this is, the front plates are a cast from the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. They send them out everywhere. And then our designer, our developers, imagined what the back end would be. You never find parts of the back end.
Were they cartilaginous or?
I think they must have been.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense.
So you never find parts of the back end. So it's an interpretation.
Very, very cool. I mean, I love just the kind of a modernist, minimalist kind of approach to depicting the rest of the animals. Really, really cool. I like this a lot. Yeah, I haven't really talked about the rock layers up there. Are those...
So the rock layers are, it breaks down, the system breaks down, but each of these towers is supposed to represent a different geologic period. Okay. But then you get 2 Mississippians and 2 Pennsylvanians, so it breaks down. But the rock layers on top are layers in those geologic periods.
Very cool.
And not only are they rock layers, but they're also supposed to represent economically useful rock layers because on the second floor is our cultural history gallery, so you sort of see it from the second floor.
It's all integrated.
So it ties together.
That's really neat. That's really, really neat. Wow. And those aren't actual like chunks of...
They're beautiful casts.
I mean, it could have fooled me. Yeah. Just extraordinary. Wow. Such a beautiful exhibit here, and I mean, congrats on how it turned out. This is pretty awesome. Yeah, I could tell that. I was talking about that earlier. Clearly, somebody like put their heart and soul into this, and their expertise, and
thanks, I appreciate
very,
it.
very impressed. Thank you again so much.
You're welcome.
Shoot, if anybody wanted to contribute to the museum who's watching, or contribute to your research, is there a way to do that?
The Indiana State Museum and Historic Sites has a website, and we're always happy to accept donations.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Well, there we go. Yeah. Holy cow. Huge thanks to Peggy for talking to us. That was really, really awesome. Holy cow. Yeah. Very nice. You see what I was talking about? You know, there are people, wonderful people, who devote their lives to unraveling the mysteries of life's history on our planet. And Peggy is one of those people. And lucky for us, she was able to share that with us through this remarkable exhibit and by coming over and talking to us. And holy cow, she was awesome. Really, really neat stuff. Yeah. And Heg pats me too. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. But yeah, excellent. Well, let's take a look at a few other things, and maybe in, say, like 40 minutes or so, we'll probably wrap things up here, because I've got a lot more driving to do today, and I want to make sure I get on the road at a decent hour. But yeah. Let's see, we have not looked at this yet, some of these remarkable crinoids. Take a look at these guys from the Mississippian period. Lots and lots of Mississippian stuff here. So, Mississippian and Pennsylvanian, these are rocks that are... Shoot, what's the date on these? They're before the Permian period, so they're I'd say what, like 390 to maybe 320 million years ago, something like that. The Mississippian and Pennsylvanian periods, they often get mixed into the Carboniferous period in Europe. So you'll also hear that term, Carboniferous. Carboniferous means Mississippian and Permian. We subdivide them here in the States usually. So these are from the Mississippian. This is sometimes called the Coal Age. And while there are all of these big, gigantic plants on land, falling over and decomposing and turning into coal, in the seas you had all these remarkable animals like crinoids and stuff like we've been talking about. And they are pretty extraordinary. We've got some beautiful, beautiful specimens here. Just exquisite preparation as well. Really, really cool. Yeah. From the Edwardsville Formation. So Peggy was talking about how, when she was still a graduate student, she got to work on this exhibit, and you can really tell that this really has a scientist's touch, Very specific information, very granular, like she was saying. Right here, you've got all these different taxa listed, and this is all very much to the point, very much, this is what these are, and it just kind of lets them speak for themselves. Take a look at just how gorgeous these specimens are. There was a quote that I saw, it's just jumping to mind right now, from Mr. Rogers, Fred Rogers. It was something about how in the modern age there's so much information floating around, but I don't know, people aren't really trained anymore to just kind of stop and experience things and just, kind of appreciate something for what it is. A lot of museums have a tendency to just kind of have a zillion different information panels and you're supposed to read them all like it's a magazine or something. This is just letting the fossils kind of speak for themselves. You can just experience them in their beauty here. And I think there's something to be said for that approach, Just being able to sit here and just look at these, just drink in that natural beauty. And just try to imagine yourself sitting in a shallow Mississippian sea, watching all of these crinoids sway back and forth with the current. As those little arms kind of go to work, catching little bits of organic matter in the water column. It's very cool to think about. Occasionally you'd have fishes swim by, some sharks. But just think about the individual lives that these animals led. They were anchored to the sea bottom. How different the world was back then. And how extraordinary it is that we can know anything at all about this. Hundreds of millions of years ago. How incredible is that? We can find these fossils, we can pull them from the earth, we can clean them, we can study them, we can reposit them in museums, we can put them on display for the public and use them to tell the story about what our planet was like so long ago. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. Yeah. Very cool. Are we still connected right here? Hang on a second. Looks like we are. Chat's just a little quiet. Yeah. And Daikaiju. Yep, I don't think we have any dinosaur fossils here. In fact, I think there's even a sign over there talking about the lack of dinosaur fossils. because Indiana doesn't have a lot of exposed Mesozoic rocks. I'm not sure if they really have any, to be honest. Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, connection's good. Thank you, Mayorspace. I appreciate that. Chat was just real quiet for a second. There we go. Footprints in history, traces of life on the land. This is really, really cool. Holy cow. And these are also from right here in Indiana. That is extraordinary. So a trackway thought to be that of a fossil reptile from Martin County. Note the tail drag. Take a look at that. You can see that long line running across there. Comes down and then kind of curves like this. And you can see those like subtle little marks on either side. Footprints side. These Indiana prints are some of the earliest remains of four-legged creatures anywhere. That is pretty neat. Holy cow. I've got toe prints of an amphibian frozen in time. This amphibian wasn't tiptoeing through the tidal flats. Those are toe indentations produced in the soft sediment below the actual tracks. So I guess the actual sediment that it was walking in was probably wasn't resilient enough. Must have been eroded away. But this is what we have underneath. Very cool. And you can see those ripple marks like you might see on a modern tidal flat. Very, very cool. So sometimes the evidence from the Earth's past is pretty subtle. Sometimes it doesn't really come out and hit you in the face. Sometimes you really have to know what you're looking at in order to interpret it correctly. This is neat. And you can see right there, see that kind of X? Where the rock saw when this was cut open. I wonder if this is like stuff that was being commercially mined or something like that. And they noticed that they had something unusual and they called a paleontologist over. I'd love to know what the story is behind this slab. But you can see the marks there from the rock saw. Very cool. Very, very cool. Here, we've got some other people coming over, so I'm going to put my mask back on. Yeah. Yeah, footprints in history. An ancient amphibian crawls from a pond. Reptiles cross a tidal flat, searching for an insect lunch. A dragonfly alights on a muddy bank. These are fleeting moments, but they endure for centuries in footprints, and even in a delicate insect wing found in Indiana. Fossils of Paleozoic land animals are rare, though there are few, if any, physical remains. Footprint traces do survive. Some of the oldest evidence of Indiana's terrestrial life. They can reveal a great deal about a creature, including its size and how it walked and carried its tail. Indiana insects are rarer still, but dragonflies probably were common, since a few dragonfly fossils have been discovered over the last 100 years. And there are some of them. Up there, there's some fleshed out dragonflies there. And yes, those are actual size. During this time, arthropods get really, really big. Whether that's due to there being increased oxygen in the atmosphere at the time, or maybe something else, I'm not really sure. I don't work on these guys in particular. So I don't really know what the modern consensus is. But, yeah, that is very, very cool. Yeah. So I bet you those are related to Meganuera, the giant dragonfly from... Where have they been found? I want to say they've been found in Pennsylvania. But yeah, very, very cool. And then here are some of these lovely coal-age plants. Holy cow. Yeah. You're going to get floor tiles and end up with reptiles. There you go, Hugo. Check that out. Holy moly. So this is an impression of a, what would that be, a lycopsid tree? Something like that? Very, very cool. There's some beautifully preserved plants there, very fern-like. There's 48, 49, 50. 48. Neuropteris. Yeah. I'm not sure what kind of plant that is. I bet you it's not even related to a modern fern. It's probably a different group, more ancient group. That that just happens to look very, very similar. Yeah. Very cool. Oh, it says ferns. Okay, I guess they are ferns. Shoot, do ferns go all the way back to the Pennsylvanian period? I thought they were more recent than that. It's pretty cool. I'm learning some stuff here. Yeah. But take a look at that. Those beautiful scales from this ancient plant. So I guess you could call this a tree. It wouldn't be related to any modern trees. I wish we had on the diagonal here. He would know what's up with this. But yeah, very, very cool. Scaled trees. Awesome stuff. Very, very cool. And this is pretty neat. Earth, moon, sun, mud, celestial clues and ancient tides. To study the sun and moon, researchers look up. To study Earth's past relationships to these bodies, researchers look down. Tidal rhythmites, rocks that preserve tide cycles, like you have here, yield an extraordinary wealth of detail about the ancient heavens. Because the sun and moon's gravity fields create Earth's ocean tides, changes in the relative positions affect the height of tides. Higher tides leave thicker sediment deposits, whereas lower tides leave thinner or no accumulations. Therefore, the sediment layers and tidal rhythmites record daily tides and even tiny shifts in the relationship among Earth, Sun, and Moon. The Indiana Geological Survey reads this record, comparing the thickness and composition of the Pennsylvanian period tidal rhythmites to that of modern tidal deposits gives us a chronicle of changes in climate, length of the day, and there's ever-increasing distance from the moon. Very, very cool. So this is really cool. Sometimes people ask me, how do we know that the Earth's rotation is actually slowing bit by tiny, tiny, tiny little bit every year? Or how do we know that the moon used to be closer to the Earth than it is today? This is one of those modes of evidence. Right there is looking at rhythmites. So basically recordings in the Earth record of how big tides used to be. Because as the moon was closer to the Earth and exerted more of a gravitational pull onto the Earth's oceans, the tides would be higher. So pretty neat stuff. And again, people like this guy right here from the Indiana Geological Survey, people like this, people like me, devote our lives to trying to figure these things out, you know? Trying to add bit by little bit to the sum total of human knowledge, you know? Yeah. Sort of thing is really, really cool to see. But yeah. Very cool stuff. Now, I just noticed a second ago when we were over here. Well, we'll look at that in a minute. We've got a light-up display over there. Before we get to that, let's just take a quick look at some of these other plants here. And this is interesting. The geologic formations here are much larger than they are in those other displays. The marine sediments, I guess you've got turnover more rapidly. And here, this would be a lot larger. 205 feet on average, the Potoko Formation. I wonder why that would be. I guess maybe faunal turnover is just... Maybe it's much more rapid in the seas than it is on land at this time. Yeah, interesting stuff. There you go. Sigillaria and Lepidodendron. We've talked about these fossil plants before, these big old trees, Lepidodendron trees. You can see the scale patterns on those. Those are gorgeous. Just incredible. Really, really amazing. Awesome stuff. And there's Calamites, like we saw at the museum in Rockford, Illinois. Very, very cool. So this is basically like a giant horsetail plant the size of a tall tree. Calamites. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Alright. Now let's take a transition from terrestrial environments to marine ones. And I didn't realize this, but when we touch these light up. So basically, we try and find these organisms in there. So let's see if we can find this bryozoan here. That should probably be maybe here or there. So let's see what Peggy was talking about. They're not quite reef builders or anything like that. Yeah. But they do kind of contribute to, I don't know, this wonderful like undersea mini forest like that. So I think, yep, there we go. Take a look. That's really neat. Very cool. Well, let's try to find Isotellus, this trilobite. Looks like there and there. Or, oh, this might be one of those blind trilobites that doesn't have the eyes on the cephalon, which might be those guys. Let's take a look.
An armored giant.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Wreaking his prehistoric fury on modern man.
Very cool.
And his puny machine.
Really, really neat. All right, let's try and find these brachiopods. I bet you those are these guys here. There you go. Yeah, very neat. And then a gastropod, this little snaily guy, is right there. There we go. This is really neat. Yeah. I walked by this and didn't realize it was going to be lighting up. Very cool. Another brachiopod right there. Calypsopod right there with another snaily guy on top of it. And then some coral. This looks like a horned coral right here. And that is going to be... where are those? Right there, maybe? Are the coral polyps that big? Let's see. Yeah, shoot. They are that big. That's really cool. Huh. What a neat display. That's really nifty. I like that a lot. Yeah. Cool stuff. Yeah. Alright, there's that enormous trilobite Peggy was talking about. Very cool. Some lovely mollusks, some trace fossils there. Oh yeah, so there is an example. See that kind of cone-shaped thing? Like right up here. A big old nautiloid like that. Super cool. Wow, pretty awesome. This is going to be cool. Well, before we do that, let's take a look at the sinkhole right here. Pipe Creek Sinkhole. We've got a lovely little juvenile rhinoceros here. Take a look at that. Oh man, how cute. Oh, very, very cool. And this is clearly a Karen Carr painting right there. She's got a very distinctive style. Take a look at that. Very, very cool. Yeah. So the Pipe Creek Sinkhole before the Ice Age. A startled rhinoceros snorts and splashes, while a short-faced bear basks in the sun. Bone-crushing dogs snarl as they fight over bloodied prey. Nearby, camels will wait hidden until it's safe to come and drink. It's a scene that played out day after day. Over time, the sinkhole filled up with sediment and the bones of animals that lived and died here. The sinkhole protected the remains from glaciers that stripped the landscape millions of years later. Very cool. So that's the thing about a lot of these areas of the Midwest, is that a lot of rocks just got completely scraped clean by the glaciers during the last ice age. So it's kind of rare, for once. I mean, for one thing, that's why we don't have dinosaurs here in Indiana. It's not that dinosaurs didn't live here. Dinosaurs lived all over the earth. Inhabited just about every landmass that we know about. There's no reason to think that dinosaurs did not live here in Indiana, but any rocks from that time are going to be gone. I'm sure that's what this sign is going to say. Yeah, we don't have rocks from that time. Wind, water, and icy glaciers eroded those fossils, if there were any. There's a 300 million year gap in Indiana's geological record. What happened during those years is a mystery, except in one Indiana sinkhole, Pipe Creek. So very, very cool. What a treasure, too, that we've got a sinkhole here to actually preserve critters from this particular time. That's really neat. Yeah. Cool stuff. We've got some casts here. Really well painted casts. Oh, and these
Though it may not seem like much, 500 bits goes a long way towards supporting science. Our treat here on Twitch.
Very cool.
Love the museum tours. Here is my entrance fee.
Oh no, these are both casts too. That is a super well painted cast. Holy cow, could have fooled me. Really neat. Yeah. And is that rhino actually full grown? The proportions on it are ridiculous. It looks like it should be it looks like it should be a juvenile, you know?
And if we really had dinosaurs now, could they get along with a horse and cow? Well,
rhinoceros used to be a lot more diverse than they are today. Yeah, throughout Earth's history, I don't know, during the latter part of the Cenozoic era, the latter part of the Age of Mammals, there's many, many different kinds of rhinoceros that evolve and live in all different kinds of environments. And
dinosaurs lived a long time ago.
This is one of those right there.
They were terrible lizards, don't you know?
What genus and species? That was Indianapolis,
With sincere appreciation and gratitude, thank you very much for the 100 bits.
Mostly grass.
For my SciComm hero.
With sincere appreciation and gratitude, thank you very much for the 100 bits.
Awesome. This is from Grant County. There, I think we're about here in Indiana right now. Very cool. Really, really neat. Here, let's let's take a look over here. Got some displays on glaciers. Ooh. Yeah, shoot. Let's just go through here real quickly. Oh, shoot. We got to go around the other way first. Yeah. Let's go
With sincere appreciation and gratitude, thank you very much for the 100 bits.
Oops. Put this back on. Alright, let's look inside a recreated ice tunnel. Feel the cold wind blowing off the glacier. We've got some muskox up there. Arctic hare, snowy owl. Oh man. Very cool. Hopefully we don't lose signal in here. Got a mammoth tusk right here.
With sincere appreciation and gratitude, thank you very much for the 100 bits.
Carried here by the glacier. It's a really neat representation of what glaciers can do. Very, very cool. This is really neat. I love how this is illuminated.
With sincere appreciation and gratitude, thank you very much for the 100 bits.
Awesome. Shoot, thank you for the support, everybody. That is really wonderful. It really is. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah.
Even if they're pressing down on something hard like a rock.
Really spectacular. Spared no expense.
Hakepets gifted Jurasis Next a subscription. Hakepets gifted a tier 1 sub to Jurasis
I like
Next.
this. This is pretty neat. Turns out the Ice Age wasn't always icy. As global climate swung between cooling down and warming up over millions of years, the glaciers advanced and retreated. Animals and plants moved too. North when it warmed up and south when the ice returned. So the reason that you've got these changes, those temperature swings back and forth during the Ice Ages, is because of what we call Milankovitch cycles. So, everybody, you know the Earth orbits around the sun, but it's not straight up and down. It's at a, 23.5 degree angle? But that angle changes a little bit. The Earth kind of wobbles a little bit on its axis, and so as it does that,
With
the northern
sincere
hemisphere
appreciation
can move
and
more
gratitude,
toward the sun,
thank you very
or
much
further
for the
away from it.
100 bits.
When it moves further away from it, like as the wobble like makes the sun's rays a little bit less direct, that can cause an ice age. That's what it seems to have done repeatedly up until just a few thousand years ago. Yeah. Very cool. What good are glaciers? How thick was the ice? Incredibly thick. So I guess here is downtown Indianapolis. There's our museum right there. And that is how tall the ice was at its peak. Very cool. This is really neat. I love how this is kind of like localized for Indiana. Yeah, rivers and lakes left by glaciers, rich farmland, and aquifers as well. Neat stuff. I love how this is kind of tied to people's everyday experience living here in Indiana. This is really neat. Yeah. Very cool. And this is what I was talking about with the Milankovitch cycles. Changes in the Earth's orbit and axis over thousands of years affect the amount of sunlight that reaches Earth. So as that angle changes, the angle of the sunlight that reaches the Earth also changes too. And when the sunlight is less direct, just like in the winter, you know how the northern hemisphere is tilted away from the sun during the winter, and you get winter as a result, while it's summer in the southern hemisphere. Yeah, same kind of deal, except you've got like gradual changes over a long period of time in Milankovitch cycles, and that can cause ice ages. Yeah. This is really interesting. Huh. Cool stuff. Oh, and this is a glacial erratic. We talked about these when we were in Rockford.
1,000 bits can make a wonderful difference in promoting the appreciation and understanding of fossil science here on Twitch.
Kind of plunked here by a glacier carried from far, far away. Unlike any of the other rocks in the area. Pretty cool stuff. And this is neat. How does a glacier do so much damage? Pressure, time, and abrasion. The immense weight of the ice picks up rocks and drags them along the ground, sometimes for thousands of years. So try it. Slide the rock to simulate the scouring action of the bottom of a glacier. And holy cow, so here we've got a rock right here, and this is really, really substantial. Rock right there. Let's... Oh, that's really neat. So slowly over time it just scours away, and look at that, little bits of rock dust. Very cool. Very, very cool. I wonder if they have to reset this every once in a while in order to maintain that friction. They have to like set it lower or something after enough people slide it back and forth. Yeah. But like they were saying here, rich farmland, this is part of it, is that minerals in the soil,
because if they're removed,
these rocks being abraded by those glaciers. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. Yeah.
Really spectacular.
Thank you for subscribing. Really appreciate that. Thank you for your support.
9,300 a subscription.
Peg Pets, thank you for the gift subs.
One sub to Bibble
that is
930.
really wonderful. It really is. Yeah. And Heil Budny says that's good for plants. It is. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, like mineral content from the rocks like this, if it turns into like something that plants can actually exploit, something that they can easily break down, like that dust, it could be really, really good for plants. Yeah. So the glaciers are treated. Indiana's climate warmed up. Yeah, and we once had jaguars.
Really spectacular. Spared no expense.
C_Ken gifted alt_ms_frizzle a subscription. C_Ken gifted a tier 1 sub to alt_ms_frizzle.
God, it looks like a peccary there. Oh, very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. Southern Indiana, in a southern Indiana cave, a jaguar partner picked off the young peccary on the prairie, then dragged it into the cave.
Other smaller animals wait in the shadows. The long-tailed weasel and garter
Not
snake.
underscore a
Wood rat
underscore
peers down from the
Hoppet42
safety
just
nest.
changed
Do you
things
see
with
them?
those 5 gift subs.
It's like, that might be the wood rat up there. There's the long-tailed weasel. Yeah. Oh, and there's the garter snake. Very cool. Yeah, she's got a nice place here. Oh, very, very cool. I remember a time when I stumbled upon a cougar, a mountain lion lair out in the Hell Creek Formation, central Montana, out of the American Prairie Reserve. That was, luckily there was no mountain lion in there when I stumbled upon it, but you could just see all these scattered bones, just like this. Deer bones and elk bones, and even what looked like some porcupine bones. But yeah, very, very cool. You see some hip bones right there. There's a lower jaw, mandible. Looks like the cannon bone from a horse, maybe. Cool stuff. Very, very cool. Really neat. Yeah. Working on level 5. Holy cow, everybody. Thank you so much for the support. Holy moly. Yeah, someone else who says cougar. Yeah, well, that's cougar, mountain lion, puma. It's all the same thing. Yeah. What's not the same thing, though, is this. Smilodon skeletons I have never seen.
Bibble9300 is getting serious with those 5 gift subs.
Not like on the ground. Also,
With sincere appreciation and gratitude, thank you very much for the 100
Atlas and
bits.
axis vertebrae. I mean, everybody talks about the teeth on Smilodon. That's really the, the thing that everybody remarks upon. But look at how thick, how big those distalmost vertebrae are. The ones closest to the head. Holy cow. We've got the atlas vertebra right there, and then the axis. Really interesting, specialized shape there on the atlas. Really strange. How have I never noticed that before on these guys? That's really cool and really weird. Yeah, thick neck muscles attached to the skull powered the ripping action of the upper canine teeth. There's those carnassial teeth, so these big shearing teeth in the back of the jaw, shearing through flesh. And then, oh, there's a baby tooth right there too. Very cool. So 2 saber-toothed teeth, one from a young cat and the other from an adult, were found in the cave. Very neat. Wow. So I guess this lair would have been used by lots of different critters over the years. Yeah. And this is a hypothesis that I've heard recently too. Yeah, saber-toothed cats tackled and pinned their prey with strong, powerful front legs. So the idea is basically, rather than like grappling with their prey, kind of like modern lions or leopards do, these guys would have kind of tackled their prey, held it down with those big forelimbs, and then used those big saber teeth to, I guess, to go through the windpipe or something like that. Yeah. Very cool. Very, very cool. Here's a cast of a Smilodon tooth right there. But he's seen this skull a million times. I've got a cast, or 3D print rather, of a Smilodon skull in my office, which we look at all the time. But it's cool to see the whole critter right here, you know? Yeah. Very cool. And, oh, and thank you, Dork Apocalypse. Hey, I really appreciate you. Shoot, everybody, did we get to a level 5? Did we do that? Holy cow, thank you so much for the support, everybody. You know, I would not be able to do this without your help, so thank you for that. Thanks for letting me share all this with you. Yeah. Very cool. We've got a fossil jaguar there. They grew bigger than modern jaguars. I did not know that. Their jaws were so powerful they could crush an armadillo or a turtle. Yowza. Yeah, so there's a modern jaguar, and there is one of these Pleistocene jaguars that is significantly bigger. Very cool. Oh, and here are some critters that we have here in North America today. Plains pocket gophers, gray foxes, and horses. Although the horse actually had to be reintroduced to North America. It went extinct here in North America at the end of the Pleistocene. About 11,000 years ago, give or take.
And then they were brought back by the Spanish back in, what was it, early 1500s? Yeah. Very cool. So it's like a giant jigsaw puzzle. Scientists pieced together bits and pieces of the animals that lived and died in this cave. Finding out who lived here gives us a picture of the ecosystem and how that changed over time. Oh, Leidy's Peccary. Very cool. I know that name. Leidy, L-E-I-D-Y. That is Joseph P. Leidy, who you could argue was America's first professional paleontologist. He also named the first dinosaurs to be named from North America, including Hadrosaurus and Troodon. Troodon is one of Joseph Leidy's names. One of the critters that he named, rather. Yeah. There's a book about Joseph Leidy that I really want to read. I think it's called Joseph P. Leidy, The Last Man Who Knew Everything, or something like that. It's very much a polymath. And I think he's got a really interesting connection to forensic science too. I don't know, somebody can look that up. But Joseph P. Leidy, early American paleontologist, and yeah, I think he may have been the guy who introduced Othniel Charles Marsh to Edward Drinker Cope. So he's kind of a player in the background of the Bone Wars too, although Joseph Leidy was far too polite and professional to engage in any of the spurious stuff that those guys are doing. Yeah. Very cool. We've got a dire wolf there. And this is interesting, yeah. There's a paper, I don't know if any of you are aware of this, but that sign, unfortunately, now would be out of date. Because the name for the dire wolf has changed. It's no longer Canis dirus. It has been reclassified into a new genus now. Aerocyon dirus, if I remember correctly. We used to think it was really closely related to modern dogs and wolves. Apparently, it's actually more distantly related. It's in a different genus, Aerocyon, rather. Significantly larger than a modern wolf, and from an earlier branch than modern wolves. Very cool. Yeah. Neat stuff. Yeah. Let's see. Whoops, it says disconnected. Still on? Let's see. I think I still know. It might just be chat that disconnected. Hang on a sec. 2 devices connected. Okay. Let me know if we're still good. Let's see. Let's see, I can't see chat right now if anybody's typing anything. So I'm going to make my way through here real quick and then go back out. $25,000 years ago. Got a dire wolf in there. Very cool. This pit is an exact cast of the excavated dig area and Megality Cave. Very cool. Got a dead beaver or a pack rat or something in there. No, it's a peccary. There we go. Okay. Very cool. Check out that cave. Oh, uh-oh. He's in big trouble, apparently. Oh, and good. Chat reconnected. We can see and hear you. Thank you, Claire Burr. Got us a little bit worried for a second. Check that out. He's in big trouble. He's knee-deep in cold water at the bottom of a deep, dark pit. How did you get here?
Probably followed the stench of a dead peccary and leaned over the edge of the pit a little too far. Oh no, and he's going to be preserved there. In this pit. Oh, poor guy. Yeah. And holy cow, look at this. The Gums Farm Mastodon. Are you seeing this right now? Very cool. Holy moly. So here's mastodon teeth. These are lower jaws. See, they've got those long, those really, tall cusps on them. Really, really neat. Yeah. In 2000, the Gums family in LaPorte County, Indiana, called in a crane to dredge a ditch on their farm. When the operator uncovered a large skull, the family contacted the museum. It was an amazing find. We excavated an almost complete skeleton of a bull mastodon, around 34 years old when he died, some 13,600 years ago. Missing were all 12 of the major leg bones. What happened to them is a mystery. Interesting. So they've just got the axial skeleton, basically. The axial skeleton is the vertebrae, and the ribs, and the skull, and only bits of the appendicular skeleton, like the scapulae right there. And they've got some pedal digits as well. Or I guess manual and pedal digits. So one's from the hands and one's from the feet. Why would the limbs be missing? That's really interesting. It's an interesting taphonomic question there, trying to figure out what happened to this critter after it died. Very cool. And what's this gap in the jaw? The animal's tongue fits in this groove. Is that right? I didn't know that about mastodons. Very cool. Holy moly. That is really neat. Yeah. Very cool. And 13,600 years old. They probably radiocarbon dated this. You can do that with fossils that are that recent. It doesn't work on dinosaur fossils, obviously. They're far too old for that. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Very neat. So, McGinnity Cave yielded a treasure trove of animal remains spanning 100,000 years. Finds from this cave are exciting because they paint a picture of life in Indiana over thousands of years and through many changes in the environment. We've got peccary bones there. There's a flat-headed peccary skeleton. Very cool. So these are casts right here. So remember what I was talking about with the, looking at the metal armature? Here, you don't see that metal armature there. Hopefully you can see this under low light. But since these are casts, you can run the metal supports directly through the bones. So you don't have to have a metal armature underneath. It's literally running through the bones. So that's how you can tell that this is a cast. Very cool. And the wolf found in McGinnity Cave had a dislocated... Direwolves from North America for 100,000 years, then some of them went extinct about 10,000 years ago. Presumably because their prey went extinct. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. And I haven't seen any American lion fossils so far, Hugo, but we are not done yet. I want to show you this real quick, too. This is really cool. Fred W. Lewis, 1919 to 2004. Fred W. Lewis, naturalist and photographer, volunteered at the Indiana State Museum for more than 20 years. He took photos, sorted remains from excavation sites for the Natural History Department, drew specimens, and helped with fieldwork. Occasionally, he would be seen carrying a shrew or chipmunk to donate to the collection, compliments of his cat. Oh. Fred's wife, Ronnie Lewis, generously supported this display of mastodon bones to pay tribute to Fred's passion and volunteer service. Very cool. Wow. Well, salute to you, Fred W. Lewis, for tireless support of this institution. And it's so cool to see him honored here in this display. What a wonderful legacy. That's pretty cool. Making a positive impact on the world, you know? Neat stuff. Neat stuff. Yeah. Yeah. And Dork Apocalypse. Yeah. Alert volume. I'll see what I can do about that. Yeah. Yeah, I'll see what I can do. This is very cool. We've got a ground sloth right there. Is that Paramylodon? No, it's Jefferson's ground sloth. A true giant ground sloth. Megalonyx jeffersoni. And there is that big old claw right there. And a short, stout phalanx, one of the finger bones. What a cool critter. Holy moly. Yeah. I like this sign. Why is it called Jefferson's ground sloth? Thomas Jefferson proposed the first name of the animal, Megalonyx, in 1797, after someone sent up claws found in western Virginia. Thought the claws came from a huge lion. Megalonyx means giant claw. So, it's a fitting name, because they do have some pretty giant claws. I mean, look at that. Yeah. In 1822, another scientist described the sloth and named it in Jefferson's honor. Very cool. And this, we talk about sometimes keratin sheaths going over claws and horns and stuff like that, and this is a representation of that. So this is the bony core of the claw, and there's some of the keratin sheath actually preserved, but that silhouette around it gives you an idea of how long the claw would be in life. So significantly longer than just the core. Cool stuff. Very cool stuff. We've got a giant beaver down there, like we saw in Rockford. That's Castoroides. Very, very cool. Yeah. The biggest rodent ever found in North America. Pretty neat. And then we've got a giant short-faced bear. Holy cow. These guys, something about them kind of gives me the creeps. They've got really interesting, weird proportions. Super long limbs. And you can see why they were called short-faced bears. I guess proportionally their faces are actually about as long as a modern bear, but just compared to the rest of the animal, it makes it look kind of truncated, hence the name short-faced bear. But yeah. Yeah, very cool. And this is interesting that they're taking this angle on the well, first of all, look at how long the limbs are on it. They're like really weird proportions compared to modern bears. I say modern bears as if the same bears didn't exist at the time. They did. So these critters lived alongside grizzly bears and black bears up until just a few thousand years ago. Like, we just barely missed being able to see short-faced bears in person. And giant North American beavers and Jefferson's ground sloth and all these critters. Basically, the fauna that we have in modern North America is... it's just kind of the last dregs, you know, of this once, you know, mighty megafauna. It's interesting to think about, you know. Yeah. So when you go and visit Yellowstone or Glacier National Park or something like that, and you see all these bison and elk, and those were like, you know, those used to be the smaller members of that fauna. You had critters like these walking around. But they lived at the same time. So grizzly bears, black bears, elk, and moose, and bison, they all date back to the same time too. It wasn't that long ago, you know? All these critters only died out about 11,000 years ago. Shortly after the first people arrived in North America. Interesting. But yeah. Yeah, anyway. Yeah. Looks like a person on all fours. It kind of does, Texas Cryptid. You're right. Hunched shoulders like that. But yeah. Anyway, this is going with the story that these guys were like hyper-carnivores. Paleontologists think the short-faced bear was the deadliest carnivore in North America because of its enormous size and thick, powerful jaws. It was bigger than any modern bears, even grizzlies, and it was quick. It could run down horses, bison, muskox, or caribou.
So I think this, I don't think there's a modern consensus. I think this is pretty controversial. Were short-faced bears hypercarnivores, or were they more omnivorous, like modern black bears and brown bears, grizzly bears? I don't know. I've heard it go both ways. It'd be interesting to get somebody's perspective on this, who actually works on these critters. You know, as a dinosaur guy, I don't know really anything about them. It'd be cool to talk to somebody who does. I just noticed something weird about our megalonyx here too. That looks like it's, and I mean no disrespect to anybody who put this exhibit together, but I think the feet on that are wrong. It's got like splayed toes like a theropod dinosaur. I could be wrong about this, but I always thought that they walked on the sides of their foot. So like basically the toe on the outside should be contacting the ground and the other should be like stacked on top of it. So rather than like this, it should be, rather than like this, it should be more like this. With those toes, kind of like that. I don't know. But what a weird animal, and what a weird skeleton. It's this big barrel-shaped gut right there. And then look at those big flanges on the ilia. Like just a huge vat of a stomach for fermenting plants. It's pretty cool, pretty weird. What an extraordinary animal, a giant ground sloth. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Yeah. But yeah, the feet are very theropodic, aren't they, Claire? Yeah. I wonder if that's a goof, or if I'm just not up to date on my sloth skeletal anatomy. Yeah. Yeah, and Dry-towned, wily Bigfoot. What about it? Mythical creatures. Very cool. And this poor mastodon here. Some real trouble. And I stepped on this. I like how this changes. You don't even realize. Oh, I was walking toward this mud pit, and then I go, uh-oh. Start to sink right here. That's a neat touch. I like that a lot. Yeah. Very cool. This poor mastodon getting stuck here. The scene is based on a real dig site in Stark County, Indiana. When Andrew Kolarek dug a fish pond on his Indiana farm, he was surprised to find a big leg bone. He called us to identify it, and in 1980 the museum excavated the site. We found mastodon bones alongside fish bones like bass, perch, and sunfish. The mastodon likely fell into the lake and died. A pollen study helped us recreate the landscape you see here. It's a spruce forest that's common today in Canada. Very cool. Here's a lovely bronze mastodon here. And so one of the ways that you could tell a mastodon from a mammoth just by looking at it, even if you can't get to the teeth, if you're just looking at the whole animal fleshed out, mammoths have like a big hump right here. They've got these elongate spinous processes right around their shoulder, and mastodons are more kind of, I don't know, got kind of a straighter back like that, if that makes sense. Yeah. But look at that, this poor mastodon. Yeah. Very cool. The sandhill crane flying overhead. We've got more mastodon painted in the background there. Poor critter. Looks like he threw some ice here. Interesting. I guess that's the story here. Wow. Well, children, be careful on the ice so you don't end up like this poor mastodon. Very cool. And this is really neat. Did mastodons roam near your Indiana home? Mastodon discovery sites? There's so many of them. mammoth discovery sites. So mastodons are much more common in Indiana, it seems, than mammoths. I bet you because this is a much more forested kind of area. We can tell from their teeth that mastodons, they seem to be more browsers. They've got high crowned teeth, kind of like modern deer and critters like that. Mammoths have got kind of flatter, more crushing teeth, like we'll see right there. Or shoot, is that another mastodon? No, that looks like a mammoth. That's a mammoth. Yeah. So mammoths not as common as mastodon, probably because more of Indiana was forested at the time. There was less kind of open plains where mammoths would have lived. So, mastodon discovery sites, mammoth discovery sites. Here's ones that are indeterminate, and here's ones, excavation sites done by this museum. Very cool. Yeah. Chances are if you find a big bone on your property, like the one you see here on display, it's from a mastodon instead of a mammoth. But call us and we'll take a look. I love that. Public service announcement, if anybody here happens to find a really big bone on their property or anywhere, call up a museum. Like, get the attention of some paleontologists, and you might end up making a remarkable discovery. You might end up contributing to the sum total of human knowledge. So yeah. Call up some fossil scientists and see what they make of it, because it could turn out to be something really important. Yeah. Very, very cool. Yeah. And this is neat. Wow. How do you measure up to Ice Age mammals? This is a scale right here. Oh, neat. Well, everybody, let's see how heavy I am compared to... Start that over. Let's see how heavy I am compared to some Ice Age megafauna. Step on it here. And I weigh about as much as a giant beaver. No, I do not weigh 237 pounds. That's pretty funny. I guess I should be in between these guys. I don't weigh 148 pounds either. Definitely more than that. But yeah. Very cool. Very cool. I love that kind of interactive thing there. Yeah. There we go. There's Harlan's muskox right there. Look at that. And look at those long neural spines. So this animal's got a really big, heavy head, and it's got those long spines on the thoracic vertebrae and on the neck. For all the attachment points for these big tendons and muscles to hold up that big, heavy head. Big old moose. Oh, and then a mastodon and a mammoth. This is super cool seeing them side by side. Yeah, so the mastodon, much more squat. It's just kind of, kind of more robust than the mammoth. Not nearly as tall. So I think that, I don't know. Again, I don't work on Pleistocene mammals or anything. So my knowledge of these guys is, I don't know, not on a professional level. But from what I understand, basically, our thinking about mastodon is that they were probably more forest dwellers, kind of eating leaves and stuff like that, eating bushes, eating stuff on trees. Mammoths are more like open plains, open prairie grazers. They're mostly eating grass and stuff like that, so they've got flat, grinding teeth as a result. So there you go, yeah. Mastodon's pointy teeth crush leaves and branches. There you go. Mastodon teeth like this. Really high cusps on them. Yeah. And we've got flatter teeth on this mammoth. Very cool. Touch here to see how the animal's chewed. Wow. Oh, cool. Oh, so you've got grinding there. Kind of back to front with the mammoth, and then kind of side to side with the mastodon. Very interesting. That is pretty cool. Take a look. Huh. Very, very cool. What a neat display. That is super neat. Very, very cool. Wow, I didn't realize that there's like a different kind of jaw motion for each of these different critters, but based on the teeth, it makes a lot of sense, you know? Yeah. Pretty cool. So yeah, so just look how short and stocky the mastodon is compared to the mammoth. That's pretty neat. That is pretty neat. Yeah. Crunch leaves, grind grass. There you go, Golden Egg. Yeah. Awesome. Lookalikes, but only distantly related. Mastodon and mammoth. Mastodon roamed lowland forests and swamps. Its cone-shaped teeth cut and ground plants. I wouldn't call those cone-shaped. It's got tall cusps on them. I guess the cusps are kind of conical. Yeah. Mammoth grazed in open grasslands. Its flat teeth worked like a file for shearing and grinding grasses. What'd I tell ya? Yeah. I know I don't work on mammals, but I've picked up a few things over the years, you know? Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Well, after this, we get into people's history. First Nations people, 12,000 years ago. And I think it's actually a good time for me to wrap up this stream. I'll do that here in front of this guy. So yeah, shoot. I've got to get back on the road. And, yeah, so let's go ahead and wrap this up. I'm going to see if I can find somebody else who's streaming now on Twitch. And we will pay them a raid. And then I will see everybody tomorrow for another live stream. Not entirely sure what I'm going to be doing yet. Part of it depends on the weather. We might go to a zoo tomorrow if it doesn't rain. We'll have to see. But who is live on Twitch right now? Let's see here. Twitch won't load. Somebody give me a suggestion for a raid. If like Science Streams is raiding or is streaming right now, or somebody like that, want to do somebody sciencey, somebody who's doing some science. And thank you, Fall Machine. I appreciate you, and Nafron, and of course to our lovely moderators. Yeah, and Geo Jim is raiding. Is streaming. Let's go raid Geo Jim. Raid Geo Jim 2006. Jim with an M. It's tough to type on my phone. There we go. There we go. Did that work? I can't tell. Let me know if we've got a raid going there, because I can't actually tell at the moment. My chat app is not being cooperative. Again, trying to get this to load. And it's being a little bit tricky. Let me try using the museum Wi-Fi here and see if that works. Oop, come on. Oh, open. Accept. There we go. Okay. Oh, and everybody, okay, good. We are ready to raid. Everybody, thank you again for making this a wonderful stream. I really appreciate your enthusiasm and your questions, and your viewership, and your financial support. Couldn't do this without you. Thank you for that. We're going to go say hello to one of Twitch's resident geologists, Geo Jim. So I hope to see everybody there, and yeah, everybody, you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you for a stream tomorrow. All right, bye everybody. Take care. All right, and end this here. Let's see.